Right, greetings everybody. It is Umber Rays here to do the finally done Paine build video and talking about Paine as a character in the game. So of course, hopefully you enjoy this video. You can expect probably the Riku news to pop sometime within the next 24 hours. And that's thankfully the only major thing that's happening in 24 hours time. Definitely nothing else that is causing Umber a lot of stress that is making him kind of just not want to poop. All right, hell of an intro, right? Let's go. So talking about Wotv here. Wotv has got the Final Fantasy X-2 collaboration, which has been available for about roughly 1 week on JP, which means it's roughly about 4 weeks. Well, three to 4 weeks-ish from showing up on Global. It should be about December 1st. As for how that will interact with the Final Fantasy XIV collaboration, not too sure, but we'll keep an eye on it in the meantime. Still, there's plenty of stuff to be going on and talking about specifically with Paine, so in the next video we will be testing Paine, but today we are more focused on building Paine. The name that every time I say it, I want to make a quick of a joke, but let's not. Paine is actually entering the game in a really good place right now. I mean, Cypher and AC Cloud are still quite prominent. June is actually not a terrible option for pairing with this character. And I think in general, with the future of, what Yuna will potentially be like, as well as Dark Veritas, there is a lot to be pretty excited about if you are a Joom. If you like Joom, if you like Cypher, if you're trying to combine those two, great swords or whatever. I mean, this character is essentially a 90 cost greatsword user, which could factor into a bunch of low cost parties that people will try to make. Now, on the average, you would look at Paine and she would be kind of unimpressive, but I think that her kit does actually shine quite well already, and that's before even getting into what things will be like going down the road. Light and Dark is definitely not in a bad place, and neither is Great Swords in combination with the Cypher group. But taking a look, just as of this build in this current party, it's nothing too incredible taking into account. I do think that her own Greatsword is probably best in class for her right now, because if you are pairing this character with other characters such as Joom or any other Greatsword user, there's a high chance that they will want the reliquary weapon over Paine. I'm not entirely sure that Paine is the best benefit for it, but if you look at the accuracy boost, the dark attack boost, just essentially what you are getting from here, including, magic attack resistance, it is a lot of beneficial things for this character that I think she'll be quite happy with. So this weapon is pretty good overall for Paine and, well, Paine only. So this seems like pretty good for most cases in most parties, but depending on who you have in your party, I can see more than enough reason why you would potentially swap this out for the reliquary, since reliquaries are just generally best in class, provided that you have them fully built. My throat is just really bad. Been like that all day. All right, continuing on. The Hermes Sandals is quite nice here, but most speed builds, Paine is not terribly short on speed, sorry. And as such, I think that the Hermes Sandals are completely fine to swap out. Given that she is quite defensive, I would recommend pairing her with a piece of equipment that ups her defensive capabilities for a armor spot, not in the Trust Mastery spot. As such, she can only equip clothing, she can't equip heavy armor. That is definitely a detriment. We would love heavy armor to be on a character like this who will essentially get out in front and take some early hits. As that is the case, I do kind of recommend just the standard survival vest, which is very good and still very highly recommendable for a lot of characters out there, and such as it is, well, Paine as well. As for Trust Mastery, her own Trust Mastery that essentially increases damage and AP sounds pretty nice, but it isn't what I would recommend to be running. I think that this one is easily swap outable because we want the armor on the main piece for those kind of survival vests and whatnot, which have a better chance of keeping people and characters alive like this. And as such, I don't know why that phrase is so much in my vocabulary. Dialdo's is probably the best in class for her, since it is one of those trust masteries that is very, 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 very popular on a lot of different units, and I think this is the right case for it. As for vision cards, I mean, the YRP one synergizes very, very well with these kind of damage types that we've already been mentioning, including Unit 2 for some variety and potential other sources of extra damage. And from there, I mean, the Final Fantasy V Hiryu card also looks to be quite nice on this character, but any Great Swords Dark Increasers or Dark Defense vision cards will also be very, very good in combination with this character, depending on who your other characters of choice are. Still, Paine has a lot of flexibility, and that's pretty nice. Going and talking about, master ability, I mean, we've looked at it: reaction block, acquired AP, dream ability, extra accuracy, single target resistance, and critical evasion. All works towards this idea of survivability, but also being pretty good at dealing with units at the front of the charge. I think that accuracy will be quite interesting in the long run. Yuna's is incredibly high at 89, which will be important going forward, as I would expect a surge of Earth teams in the future. And 54 accuracy is good, but it's not insanely good, since Riku essentially stops sure hit accuracy from being that dependable. I'm not super convinced about it here that Paine will be good enough, but there is at least some stuff in her kit to push that accuracy. Talking about supports, her main two supports are probably what you're going to want: defense penetration, slash attack resistance penetration, and single target resistance. Basically Paine's game right here. But the sub job of her Blade Knight, or whatever it's called, 24% attack and slash attack resistance, could push more attack here, which is not bad. Slash attack resistance, as well as magical distance-based resistance, is not another bad option based on that sword knight. Critical rate and attack, or pierce attack, and honestly pierce attack is completely in the garbage. Critical rate and attack is a little bit risky, since it doesn't seem to be as big of a focus for her as it is for Yuna, so I think those are completely out. I mean, and her main two job ones are just really, really good. We have the one that I already talked about earlier, but I had this up and now it's just completely disappeared off my screen. Sorry, I'm pulling it up as of right now, and everything is just giving me so much technical issues. Hey, now it works. Because this is not listed on Wotv Calc, it's still one of those please contact to be fixed. Recovers a certain percentage of HP when damage goes below 50%. Again, you pile enough resistance onto her, she is pretty good at taking a bunch of hits and self-healing, and that medium heal actually activates 2 times, so that's a lot. Adds an effect that also reduces magical damage. I mean, she is just really good at, so long as there are mages on the field, and magic is one of the major damage types in this game. So yeah, you're always going to be running that one, and I think you're always going to be running the other one. There is a little bit of flexibility to push more attack, but attack doesn't seem to be Paine's goal so much as dealing good, solid damage and staying alive. 2 things which, sure, we like those things. As for counter, her counter for her main job has a wide range on it and just counters magical damage, hitting back. She also has the other one from the newer Blade Knight, which has basically just a 2-panel range that dispels all buffs, haste, physical damage increases, magical damage increases, and that's a counter to slash and magical damage. There is a case for her counter being one or the other. Whether you think that you're going to get close enough is completely plausible, seeing that Paine can resist a fair amount of damage before dying, and that's great because you could get that better counter to go off. I actually think I recommend Blade Knight over her main job counter because I think it just potentially has a way higher point of actually just working. Now, taking a look, Lancer, I think is just completely out. It's uninteresting. Other than the buff, it's a different damage type, so I don't think it's worth considering at all. No matter what the case, Pierce is just not in that position, and even if for a sub job, no. Blade Knight, on the other hand, does have increased critical evasion, slash resistance, defense, and spirit increases, and absorbs 50% of the damage done for 4 turns. Now we're talking about an ability here that can actually benefit Paine, give her more healing, more defensive capabilities, and more likely to survive other hits. You can also restore CT, inflict confusion, decrease dark resistance, and get AP recovery while dispelling auto revive from the various abilities. I think that Blade Knight is quite nice. What you're giving up is a slow chance on a fairly limited ranged ability that just isn't that likely to happen, given that she's not going to be high faith. And as for the other one, decrease attack and defense penetration, sure, it works towards the goal of her being alive, but if we just have that other support skill from Blade Knight, that overall might be better. So my personal recommendation for Paine here is Blade Knight for a sub job. I like it way more than her main job, and Lancer I don't even consider. Limit Burst is super important. You're going to want to level that up to max because Delay Buster is a huge factor of just decreasing CT, eliminating your opponent's turns, and allowing you to have multiple more turns. As for her main job, there's lots of stuff in here. Her support skill is she has 2 ones, basically a physical HP shield and an AoE resistance penetration, and single target resistance increase for herself, which she's almost always going to want to run because that keeps her alive. Her other one, granting attack, haste, protect for herself and allies is one of her biggest bonuses here, as well as just ignoring a fatal damage hit and restoring 20 AP for herself. With the current build I'm proposing, she essentially has 3 supports, but I think it is possible that most of the time those will go off with very little problem, and her casting haste on other targets is just uber valuable. That's the thing that we really want for Paine to be doing, taking a few hits, breaking physical barriers, and she can also ignore those fatal damage ignores on the opponent. Big weakness that we just have to mention very quickly is that she doesn't essentially have any seal abilities. She's not doing really too terribly much to protect some of the stuff that she's putting on characters, and that will probably make you determine who you should partner with this character, both, present and future cases. I also think that you really want a kind of single target shred available on your team to power up some of her abilities. You could potentially also work with some AoE shred, as she does have some AoE abilities too. Lastly, talking about just a partner icon, I think that, any of the big damage dealers and damage dark, depending on your cost restrictions, Behemoth would be really good for just, low cost restrictions. Dark Bahamut as well as Odin are the most obvious ones for just regular time, which is kind of what the friend unit has anyway. And that's probably correct. If you can squeeze out more damage, it's pretty good. I wouldn't go full tank, as you're going to still want to keep your DPS being relatively solid so that it feels like she is contributing a fair bit to your party. All right, I think I've essentially covered everything with her build. Limit burst, supports, counters, all of that stuff. So when we come back, we will test the friend unit for all that she is worth. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you next time.